I just want to take very few minutes to say thank you to all of you for coming. It is 30 years that the Institute has been around. I've been with the Institute for 25 of them. And many of you in the room have walked with us in so many different ways to help us get here. And I can't tell you how much we are grateful for all of that partnership. I love Germany in more ways than one since I've been married to a Nordlicht for about 34 years, and that's one of the reasons that I'm so happy to be here now. I want to not take any time from Steffen because I want to give him the floor in a minute, but there's been a lot of talk about AICGS as a name that's a mouthful, and so I thought I would maybe just take 1 minute just to say how else would we use those letters, AICGS. And I thought about it, and I was thinking that one of the things that we could do is to say that we are assembling individuals, connecting groups for strategy. It's a beginning. We are assessing issues and choices having to do with Germany and, if you forgive the U, United States. But more to the point, we are talking about 4 things which I think make up the core of the work of the Institute every single day we go to work. Challenges for Germany and the United States, choices that Germany and the United States face, the consequences of the choices that we make, and indeed, eventually, the conclusions that we draw from them. Those are the 4 things that make up the work that we do at the Institute every day. And it's this kind of symposium that adds the grist that will continue to work out through the rest of this calendar year into our 31st year. And I can only invite you to be a part of it, whether it be here or whether it be in the United States. We welcome your contributions because I think we all have a common stake in the future of this relationship, which we think is so critical for both sides of this very important equation. With that said, I want to now introduce the Parliamentary State Secretary, Steffen Kampeter, who has done us the gracious pleasure of coming and kicking us off the shore. Steffen, the floor is yours. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, for inviting me to give a welcome on behalf of the German government on this anniversary meeting. If I go back 30 years ago, it was a different world, wasn't it? We didn't have talked much about reunification of Germany or reunification of Europe. The globalization and other issues were put aside, and the Institute was founded. I was, for the first time, invited in the early 90s to the German Institute for Contemporary, to the Institute for the, it's complicated, AIGCS. I was invited by Jack in the early 90s. It was on the issue, I don't know why you choose me, on migration. And I was together with Daniel Cohn-Bendit, and I very much I doubt that this will happen again in DC in the next years, that we both are talking on the issue of migration. But this was the first time when I felt the inspiration which the Institute is contributing to the European, to the transatlantic dialogue, especially between the United States and Germany. And the world has completely changed. One cornerstone is still there. It's Jack. Thank you for your work for the transatlantic thing. Yeah. I think another hand for him, please. This is not a... I know, I apologize, every chairman I miss now, but this is something of a longer relationship. With my greeting, I want to take up some of the issues taken together. Let's start with the trade issue. The economies of the European Union and the United States have already achieved a level of integration which is unique. Over 70% of foreign investment in the US comes from Europe. In turn, 56% of the US foreign investment goes to Europe. And in 2011, transatlantic trade amounted to over 700 billion euros. and that is over 900 billion US dollars. This huge flow of trade and investment between the United States and the European Union shows how tightly integrated our markets, at least our markets, already are. While these numbers are impressive, they are no reason for complacency. The world around is constantly changing. New economic powers are emerging. We have potential to achieve more, and we should use it. Expanding transatlantic trade further would have been a clear and a positive impact on prosperity, on growth, and on jobs on both sides of the Atlantic. This is why President Obama, European Council President Van Rompuy, and European Commission President Barroso issued a joint statement for calling negotiations on a comprehensive free trade agreement between the United States and the EU. And I very much think of the first step, which were the Transatlantic Partnership Initiative, and now we see that this thing is going to be taken up, and I will very much support, as the German government, this activity, and we will positively contribute to a possible agreement. One thing what we have to do is to have a close look at our regulatory standards. Our difference in this area add a lot to the cost of doing business. Estimates show that they raise 20%, between 10 and 20% additional cost to the transatlantic trade. In addition, these different regulatory standards present a major obstacle, especially to small and medium-sized businesses, and often stop them from entering the transatlantic market at all. Today, in some sectors, up to 80% of transatlantic trade takes place between two affiliated firms. For example, between an American parent company and a European subsidiary, or vice versa. These are companies that know the legal systems on both sides. Small businesses are often reluctant to initiate trade relations with partners that operate in unfamiliar legal systems. We have to work together to diminish these barriers, stopping them from participation in international trade and entering a new market. If the United States and the EU take the important step of aligning our standards and regulations, small business, which are the basis of the economic success here in Germany, these small businesses will benefit from the new market and opportunities and will create new jobs. By pushing forward, ladies and gentlemen, our transatlantic trade and investment partnership, we are pursuing a shared and ambitious goal. This is to tighten the strong links between the world's two most important economic regions and to foster a single integrated economic zone. An agreement like this can serve as a model for the global economy. In addition, I am convinced that will give a key momentum to multilateral negotiations that will lead to a further liberalization of world trade. Studies show that the comprehensive free trade would bring substantive benefits to both, to the United States and Europe. Common standards will reduce development costs and consumer prices. At the same time, we can set standards for the global economy as a whole. Suppliers from third countries may adopt such standards to increase their own chances and lead to further commercial success. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership is not going to set itself up automatically, and as everybody expecting and describing it at the moment, the negotiation will not be without hurdles. For example, let's take the agricultural issues, which are very sensitive for the EU. Hormone-treated meat is just an example. At the same time, some European priorities will meet the resistance of the United States. One key example here is the EU desire to see the US open up its public procurement system at both the federal and at the state level. We have to give active support to this forward-looking project that will bring all of us more prosperity, more jobs, and new sources of economic growth. A free trade agreement can play a key role in helping us to overcome the financial and economic crisis, and it would not add any extra costs to government budget, something which is always music in the ears of a financial state secretary. We have set very ambitious time frame for, let's take us 2 years for negotiating the agreement, given the complex technical and political issues that have to be dealt with, and considering the tremendous significance of this project, we have to give our utmost effort to ensure that we achieve our goal, and I think, and clearly state out, it will be worth it. I'm sure that the panelists this afternoon will have to say a lot more about this issue and will underline the political support of the German government by a good debate. Let's come to the other topic, and I'm very glad that you didn't invite me to participate in panel 1. It's about monetary policy. It's not my real job, but while we are debating the same issues between Berlin and Karlsruhe simultaneously, I will clearly state out that the German government's position on the highly debated issue, what's up with the ECB mission, is that the merit of the case against the ECB is highly doubtful. The German government made, with the statement of Wolfgang Schäuble, very clear, our central point is that the independence of the ECB should be preserved. This was a crucial prerequisite for Germany to the creation of the monetary union. And this is why we defend the independence of the ECB so vehemently. One can have different opinions about the monetary policy of the ECB or the measures the ECB has adopted. But this cannot be influenced either by the government or by the parliament. This is an area that lies squarely and solely in the remit of the ECB. As long as these measures remain within the confines of the ECB's mandate, they escape judicial scrutiny. Furthermore, the ECB is in a position to decide whether its mandate has been breached. If the government were to believe that such a breach had occurred, it would have turned to the European institution as described in the EU treaties. But it's quite clear, and Wolfgang Schäuble stated it yesterday, the measures deployed by the ECB so far, and only those can be examined, are not in a breach of its mandate, and we do not think that this complaint is admissible. Let me come to a third point. Next week is Obama week in Germany. As you know, when the American president shows up in a capital like Berlin, everything is different like it usually shall be. So will it be next week. Many US presidents have already visited Berlin. 2 visits and speeches are particular and have found their way into the hearts of memory of the people of Berlin and in the hearts of the people here in Germany. The first one everybody knows is the speech Kennedy gave at the Schöneberger Rathaus in 1963, 50 years ago, less than 2 years after the Berlin Wall was built. And in the occasion of his visit for the anniversary of the Berliner Luftbrücke, or the Berlin Airlift, Kennedy said that as a free man he takes pride in saying, "Ich bin ein Berliner." This is a clear commitment to West Berlin and West Germany at the peak of the Cold War, and gave hope to the German people. Because 1963 was the year I was born, I couldn't participate. But I participated in the second very important speech in 1987, 2 years before the wall here in Berlin. And it was Ronald Reagan, in front of the Brandenburg Gate, called upon the leaders of the Soviet Union to open this gate. And he said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." With his demand, he kept alive the hope of ending the division of Germany and Europe in East and West, raised up by Hitler and Stalin decades ago. The last decade of the 20th century kicked off with the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989. The Iron Curtain, to quote Winston Churchill's words, came down. And German unity only 1 year later in 1990 would not have been possible without the wholehearted support of the United States and President Bush. This leads to a very special relationship between Helmut Kohl and George Bush, and outlined how important the personal relationship between the leaders of our two states are. That decade saw also European integration taking huge steps forwards, culminating in the introduction of the euro in 1999. In 1999, 11 countries were participating in our common currency. Since then, the number of the euro area countries have increased to 17, and with Latvia standing ready to become number 18, the second most important currency, the euro, is getting more sustainable. The idea of transatlantic partnership should not only be based on economics. And the special relationship between Bush and Kohl lines this out. It should be based on values. And if the economic circumstances are changing, our common values for freedom, for democracy, and a common understanding how the future world is to be shaped shall be more important than trade figures. This development of European reunification was not made up, or European reunification was not made up by economic analysis, but it was made up by political support of people, leaders, and nations who are addicted to the same values. In this very situation, we try to strengthen the transatlantic partnership by strengthening the competitiveness of euro. This is a political mission, and it's a key mission to all European nations. European integration remains a top priority till today. And European integration is, and that includes a stable currency, is essential for Europe as a whole to secure competitiveness and employment. Our key policy challenge is to overcome the current crisis and lastingly stabilize the euro area. In this context, let me emphasize this, it is of great importance not to just debate the short-run crisis management, but also long-term reforms, both on the member state level and on the European level. And let us continue to do our job. Let us not to hesitate in relation to reform. And leadership means stay on track and keep the pace high. This is the task for Europe, and this will contribute to the transatlantic relationship as well. Ladies and gentlemen, this has to accept as well that comprehensive reform may take more time than somebody would like. Financial markets tend to call for easy and quick solutions, but democratic societies are sometimes a bit more complicated than market participants are willing to believe. We need to convince our citizens and not just the analysts, but I am convinced that we will succeed in building a more stable, a more integrated, and a more democratic Europe. We are aware that European integration constitutes a historical achievement which cannot be overstated. All political decision makers in Europe share a large responsibility in shaping a weather-proof institutional framework for the future. At the same time, we are grateful for all the support we are experiencing from our friends, foremost from the United States, in this complex and sometimes nerve-wracking process. I am convinced that enhancing Europe's economic and political abilities will benefit the people in Europe. But I'm also deeply convinced that it will benefit our transatlantic relationship as well. The challenges of all of our countries, which they are facing in the 21st century, cannot be shouldered by only one country or one region alone. But with strong partners, things can make a difference. An essential part of the European integration process is constant communication, exchange, and the establishment of working relationship. This is also true on the Transatlantic Partnership. Bilateral relations, starting at the highest political level, are an integral part of the process. But they are not the only important thing. That people meet in frameworks like at the American Institute of Contemporary German Studies is useful as well. Yeah, okay, I got it now. And this is where things fit together. We have to do our political job and do exchange and strengthening the economic and political exchange between the United States and Europe. But we have to deliver more. We have to deliver a common understanding of an elite which goes beyond politics, that is in favor of a very strong relationship between the United States and Europe, and especially Germany. If there's a case where the authoritarian market economists or economies are on the top of the trade share, and on the other hand, Europe, Western democracies, are not as economically important, my clear statement is, please rely on the value, rely on the traditional, and rely on the German and American friendship over the last decades. Thank you very much indeed.
Steffen, I just wanted to say one thing to you. There's one thing about the relationship. You mentioned the two speeches that you weren't a part of because you were just getting started in '63, but you were out here in '87 and you heard that speech. The one thing that I think that bonds us so much together is October 3rd, 1990, and the steps of the Brandenburg, the steps of the Reichstag, and I think that was a moment in time where German-American relations kept their resolve for all those years, and I think that should be something we should both be proud of.
Yeah.
And I also want to say that one of the things that Kennedy said at the very end was not only the fact that he is a Berlin citizen, but that the notion that went beyond just that particular moment paid off 40 years later, and I think it's great to have you here solidify that for us. Thank you very much for coming. Our greetings to the Minister, and we look forward to having you back again.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.